Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my February blog. Now, I just want to say first that I hope that all clients and followers of It's Just a Feeling are doing as well as they can do in these troubled times that we're going through. And I'm hoping that my blogs do share a little bit of light, or do shed a little bit of light on some hope with anxious feelings during these times, because I know anxiety is very prevalent at the moment, and it's a new feeling for a lot of people, given everything that's going on. But also, there is people that have struggled with these symptoms for many years. And as I said in my very first sort of blog or vlog, or whatever you want to call them, that I made on here, It's Just a Feeling was kind of made for that reason, because I, many years ago, suffered very acute and then went on to suffer chronic anxiety for a number of years, and felt at the time that it was really difficult for me to get the answers that I needed, really, to start to facilitate my own recovery. And so I created It's Just a Feeling for that reason, really, just to see if I could reach out and use my experiences to help others. And I since a few years ago now qualified as a therapist myself, so I have a lot of practical experience and experience as somebody who has suffered as well. Now it's been really interesting. I know I've touched on this in a couple of my sort of past blogs, if you like, but It's Just a Feeling, when I kind of made that, I was like, why have I got this really horrible feeling inside? And I don't like it, and I'm really scared of it, and it's really impactful on my life. How do I get rid of this? So it was really important for me to sort of get rid of it. And I saw myself, I think, as having something wrong with me. And you know, in times of feeling really anxious, I actually felt really quite hopeless and like nothing would ever get better. It was almost like this locked door that I just couldn't get to the other side of, and I didn't know how my life was going to look with it. So I was kind of, I need to just get rid of it. I almost need to take a big rubber and erase it. So mainly my experience that I shared on the website was me believing that I was in some way ill, and that I had this thing called anxiety in whatever form that took. And yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm going to do a bit of a blog on labels, because I think if I look back, I probably had lots of different labels. I probably suffered anxiety in many forms over the years, and I'm not really sure how helpful it was to me to sort of go, right, I've got, you know, panic disorder, and now I've got social anxiety and getting a bit of body dysmorphic type symptoms. And so it was almost like I was walking around thinking that I'm really not well, and I've got this thing, and it can just come and get me, and I can't get rid of it. So along a lot of my previous experience that I shared on the website, really, has been to do with working through that feeling and working with what I class as being the sort of habitual behaviours, or the response to the way that I'm feeling. And that's okay, and it does need to be done. But if you imagine the sea, and imagine that there's a wave on top of the sea, underneath the surface there's more going on, and what happens is, on the surface is the anxiety, is the anxious feeling. So what's going to be happening is, my website is just currently being redeveloped, just to keep up to date with, I guess, my journey. Even though I consider myself as quite well and able to support others, I'm still piecing together lots. You know, life is constantly moving. I meet people, I read things, I experience things, I make sense of something that happened many years ago now. There's all sorts going on, and it's a constant. It's almost like not a stagnant process. And I think it's really important to kind of share that with you, and to keep updating my knowledge So I'm going to start today. What I thought about was, with all this in mind, I'm going to give you a thought on how anxiety might look. I'm just going to use one of my bizarre little analogies that I use and sort of show you how we look at anxiety, or how something needs to change in order to regain our quality of life, and how that looks within the anxiety umbrella. So that probably doesn't make any sense at all. But it's almost like the sort of feeling that I got when I really suffered, and I think the feeling that I see in other people that either I work with or that I hear of or that I read about, is I want to take a great big rubber. And the only way I'm going to become well is to rub out everything that had anxiety in it, and then just become this person that I was before, and it'll be all okay. So, and when I say person that I was before, I mean prior to noticing that I had a feeling that I was uncomfortable with, because I am the person I was before now, because humans are always changing and evolving. So you're never going to be the person you were even yesterday, because all the time we're kind of changing and evolving. So in my experience, and as I say, I'm not using textbooks here. I often try and be as authentic as I can, and use the only resource I have, which is, myself. But what I'm doing is I'm kind of thinking, right, okay, what changed for me? Why now do I see anxiety differently? And how has that helped me in my recovery? So I'm going to tell you a little story. It's probably it sounds a little bit bizarre, but I'm going to kind of give you an idea. So if you were truly phobic, you would literally be terrified if you were faced with the object of your phobia. So let's just imagine that you are absolutely phobic of spiders, that you just cannot, and the impact of this phobia is making it so that you're scared to move, really, because there could be a spider anywhere. So you've really restricted a lot of your life. You've kind of, you just retreated into your shell, and you just think about the possibility of spiders all the time. So I'm then going to be really mean and horrible, and I'm going to take you and I'm going to bring you to this room here, and I'm going to lock you in. I'm going to lock you in, and in the corner behind me, there is the biggest spider you've ever seen in a web, just near the floor. And when I lock you in, I say to you, I'm not going to let you out of this room for 3 weeks. And you have to stay in it for 3 weeks. This door's not going to open for 3 weeks. So like it or anything, like it or lump it, you're in the room for 3 weeks. And I walk away. And what could happen is, you could be, oh my God, there's a spider in here. And what's happened is you've had time to build that phobia, that fear. However it came, at the moment, it's there. And so anything that you're imagining, what happens is the mind might have a bit of a story, but then the brain will fill in blanks. So you can come up with, if you're anxious, lots of really horrible imaginings, like, this spider's going to, if I see a spider, it's going to run across the room and it's going to seriously harm me. And I'm really at risk, and I might die because it might bite me, and I don't know about spider bites. So I'm really scared. So we can make up this level of fear. And what's happening is we're never ever proving it wrong, because we're avoiding. So we're dreaming all these horrible imaginings up that could happen to us, which is what I would call anticipation. And it's the anticipation of this, ultimately, this horrible feeling coming. And so we'll protect ourselves. Just coming off subject, if you imagined that a friend rang me and said, do you want to come for a coffee? And I thought wherever I went, I'd have a panic attack. As soon as I put the phone down saying, I'll think about it and ring you back, I would get, Mr. Fear Monster in my head going, oh my God, are you going to be sorry when you go for that coffee? This is just going to be awful. I'm talking like struggling to breathe. I'm talking, oh my God, going to hospital. I'm talking the biggest panic attack that you've ever seen. And because I'm imagining that, I'm sort of going, whoa, no way, no, I'm not going there. Because if that's going to happen, I don't want to feel that. So I ring my friend back and I go, do you know what? No, I can't come today actually, and because I forgot I've got an appointment somewhere, which is of course a total lie. I'm not going anywhere because I'm too anxious, but actually that gets me out of, you know, going for a coffee. What I've not done there is I've never ever proved to myself that that's not going to happen. So that fear is going to build. And this is what happens with this habit. And so we've never got a reality to compare it against. So we can just go haywire with our imagination. So if we go back to the spider, so what's probably likely to happen is you're going to run at the door and you're going to be banging on the door like this, help, help, let me out. You know, I mean, with a spider, I'm really scared. It's just going to be awful. And you do that until you're exhausted and the door doesn't open. So you kind of turn around and you slump to the floor and you're looking at the spider in the corner and you're like, right, you're as far away as you can be from it in the other corner. And you're going, I can't take my eyes off it even for a second. So you watch it. And over the course of 3 weeks, you observe the reality of the spider. So my knowledge of spiders, limited knowledge, is that they'd probably rather stay away from you than they would come towards you. And they get about their own business. They're doing their own thing in the web. They're focused on eating. They're focused on surviving. That's about it. You know, if it comes near you, it probably does so by accident, and it would rather stay away from something as big as a human. And you're going to start to see this because you've not got another option, because in our little story, the door's locked. So over the course of 3 weeks, you go from blind panic to quiet resolution with Mr. Spider. And when I come 3 weeks later and I open the door, you will have a completely different way of looking at spiders, because whatever you concoct in your mind about spiders, you've got an actual to go, hang on a minute, that's not correct. You've got factual evidence that is saying, do you know what? This is how spiders are, because I've been with a spider and I've witnessed a spider and I'm not quite as scared anymore because I've actually seen something different. And that, in a nutshell, is how I would say anxiety, the fear is. Because once you've started to play with the fear, and once you've started to go towards the fear, it can never be quite as frightening as what you have imagined in your head, because that's really powerful. The imagination and the anticipation is really powerful in keeping this cycle going. So what's actually happening is that you're doing something different, you're seeing a different side to it. And if I could say to you anything that is different about me, because you know what, I've still had the same life experiences, I've still grown up with certain beliefs, I still see the world in a certain way unless I question it, I still have automatic habitual behaviours that I'm much more aware of now and able to kind of identify and deal with. But you know, I'm human, I've still got all of that. So what's different? Why don't I just suddenly get really, really anxious? Or when I do, why do I not succumb to it? And I would say that it's because I can see it in a different light. My perception of it has changed. So there's too much actual in my head rather than perceived. So I might slip into it slightly if something happens that triggers me, but I'd almost go, hang on, whoa, I know what's going on here. And if I know what's going on, I can't possibly be as scared of it. And if I'm not as scared of it, it can't have the same effect on me that it's always had before. So it's still there, but it's a different entity altogether. It just doesn't have the same impact. So I'm human. Of course, I can get anxious. You know, I'm not denying that. But could I be as anxious as I was going back to when I had my very first panic attack? No, probably not. And I have to say that if I had a panic attack in the supermarket now, whereas at one point I'd have taken myself to A&E, now I would continue to shop, because there's a difference in my actual and therefore in my perception. So I'm really hoping that all that makes sense to you. It's just something for you to think about. And my kind of new website, if you like, will reflect this. So my way of working with anxiety is to, yes, okay, we need to work with the wave at the top of the sea that's been created as a result of our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, life experiences, and perception of things. We need to work with that, of course we do. But there's also the other part underneath the sea, that is sort of rumbling away under the surface and creating this kind of surface wave. And that, in a nutshell, is what I think happens to people. I think they learn about them. They don't become as alarmed at feelings that arise in them, and they start to see things in a different way once they have an actual to go with the perceived. But if you're just sit and be in the perceived, that's quite a vulnerable and scary place to be. It's much different because you've nothing really to compare it to. So I hope all that makes sense. I wish you all well in the meantime, and I will be back in March with my next blog/vlog, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. Take care now.